Good morning, beautiful people. I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. Today I want to talk about carbs, my favorite topic, my favorite food, and more specifically peri-workout / intra-workout carbs. Why do you need them? What should you use? All of that. So first of all, do you need them? Probably. Yes. So honestly, they're not going to be the biggest needle mover. If I really needed to boil it down, I will say that it's not a big rock, right? This is when you're looking at hyper optimizing things, because the difference is the effects that we see from intra-workout carbs versus not having them is they're not huge. And personally, just off of anecdotal experience, I ran out of my intra-workout. I'm not going to give away what I use yet. I ran out of my intra-workout and I had to order some more. And so there was a couple days where I was without it. And I can tell you right now that the progress was unaffected. So take that with what you will. And so I would say, yes, you do need them. I would say it's a good thing to have. I wouldn't say it's going to be the biggest thing of determining whether or not you have good gains or not, or good workouts or not. I think there's certain case scenarios where you would definitely want them, but in others, they're gonna matter a lot less. So why do you need them is the next one. So there's essentially two reasons. The first is for consuming them, and that is that it's going to keep your blood sugar high. So we've seen there is a correlation between your blood sugar at the end of a workout, so your post-workout blood sugar, and your total volume load. And total volume is literally just reps times sets times weight. And obviously they're equating this in the studies. So people tend to be able to lift more weight for more reps when they have higher blood glucose at the end of a workout. So that's the number one reason, is you want it, and that's why people have liquid carbs, because you want it to be fast digesting. You want it to actually be able to go through your body, go through your system, into your liver, and slowly drip sugar into your bloodstream as you're lifting. And lifting slows digestion significantly, so you want this to be as easily digestible as possible. Liquids are the obvious most readily accessible form. That's why it's definitely a lot better to have liquid carbs during your workout than to be the guy who's eating gummy bears. Sure, the guy that's eating gummy bears is probably going to be a little bit better off than the guy who's doing nothing, but again, liquids are probably your best bet. And the second reason, so other than keeping your blood sugar high, the second reason is I guess I'll say one thing, that not keeping your glycogen stores. So resistance training is not very taxing on your total body glycogen stores. And glycogen stores is just how your body stores carbs. It's not very taxing on that. It is taxing on your fiber glycogen stores. Those almost get completely depleted. And there's just a slight difference, because glycogen is also stored in your liver. It's not just stored in your muscles. And anyways, that's not why we're doing it. We're not doing it for glycogen. We're doing it for blood sugar, number one. And then we're also doing it because it reduces your perception of effort. Essentially, you have mechanosensors in your mouth, and I don't know if mechanosensors is the right word. You have sensors in your mouth that detect carbohydrates and tell your brain, hey, you don't have to slam on the brakes. You can push as hard as you want, because energy is not scarce. We have energy on the way. And if you didn't know, that's what most fatigue mechanisms are, just there so that we don't run out of energy. Our body loves ATP. That's our body's energy source. And fatigue mechanisms are there so that, one, we don't completely destroy ourselves, and two, so that we don't run out of energy. But that's why we have central governor theory that says that our brain taps on the brakes when we're doing hard stuff, because it doesn't want us to run out of energy. But when you swish carbs in your mouth, the theory is that it tells your brain, don't worry about it, we got energy on the way. And that's why we see benefits even just with carb swishing, where they don't even ingest it. And it's not even The crazy part about this is it doesn't even matter if it tastes like anything. They've done this with unflavored liquid carbs, and where the people literally just swish it in their mouth for 30 seconds and then spit it out and then lift, and we see performance increases. And again, they're not huge. That's the one thing that I do want to get across, is it's not make or break your gains. You can make amazing gains. You can get jacked without ever using intra-workout carbs. It's just there. That benefit is there. It's just not huge. And that's what, with 99% of the stuff that we talk about, is just that little extra 5%, if that we're trying to squeeze out. And so those are the two main mechanisms, is the reduction in CNS fatigue, or reduction in perception of effort, and then keeping our blood sugar high. Boom. That's why we need to do it. And the best sources are, again, liquid. So we want it to be readily available. We want it to be easily digestible. So I like to do just highly branched cyclic dextrin, code COLT from EchoVision, save you some money. Shameless plug. But they have, so I like highly branched cyclic dextrin. It is the cheapest option and the easiest. And you can also do a bunch of different things. You can do coconut water is a great one. So I guess there's another part of intra-workout. So it's not just intra-workout carbs. It is also, a lot of people will tell you that you should have intra-workout electrolytes as well. And that's because electrolytes are used in every muscle contraction. Every time you contract your muscles, you need calcium, and sodium and magnesium also have their roles, as well as potassium. So all of these are used in muscle contractions, and most people don't get enough of them anyway. Pretty much everyone gets enough sodium. I can tell you that right now. With the modern Western diet, you're good on sodium, for the most part. But in terms of magnesium and potassium and calcium, most people don't get enough anyways. So electrolytes are probably a good idea just to have in general. And I'm gonna be honest, this is, again, very, very small effects. We have some papers showing that electrolyte supplementation is beneficial. We have others saying that it's not. And the ones that, and especially if you're not sweating a lot, then you probably really don't need electrolytes as well. This is, again, just kind of insurance, so to speak. But if you are sweating it a lot, I would definitely recommend it. I used to lift at a gym it's a warehouse gym in Austin, Texas, that doesn't have AC because it's half inside, half outside. And I was sweat buckets. I'm telling you, I was drenched. That, you need electrolytes. If you're gonna be sweating a ton during your workouts, then I would say use electrolytes. But if you're not, then it's good insurance, but it's probably not gonna move the needle a lot. So if you're budget constrained, then I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're not, Echo-Lite, code COLT, save you some money. Anyways, so electrolytes and carbs are gonna be your best bets. Highly branched cyclic dextrin is my go-to source. I like doing unflavored because I have flavored Echo-Lite. And then if you don't wanna do that, you can do coconut water. That's why I was talking about coconut water, because coconut water is a great source of electrolytes. It's a great natural source of electrolytes. If you don't want to use an electrolyte powder that has sucralose in it, which is going to damage your epithelial lining, because sucralose is not very good for your gut, and even at low doses, but that's a whole nother thing. And again, even the damage that sucralose causes at low doses is very low, and it's very minimal damage that it causes. Epithelial lining is just the inside of your gut. Well, the outside of your gut. It's the outer wall of your gut. And sucralose has been shown to damage it in mice, I will say that. And it's also been shown to have some weird interactions with insulin. So, I don't know, I try to stay away from sucralose. It's mainly sugar alcohols, but this is not a gut health video. If it was, I wouldn't be telling you to buy Echo-Lite. I wish Echo didn't have sucralose, but sucralose is just the most widely used artificial sweetener. And again, it's probably not bad it's always the dose determines it, so it's probably fine. But if you're just looking to minimize any exposure, then I feel like my theory on it is if it's either a net negative or so artificial sweeteners are either a net negative or a net neutral. So I would just rather not, because there's really not a net positive other than just the dopamine that you get from having something sweet. Anyways, coconut water is a great source of natural electrolytes. You also have the carbs, so coconut water is a great choice. You can also do the OG method, which is orange juice and honey. This is the OG bronze, silver era bodybuilder method of OJ and honey. And this is actually probably better than just dextrose or just cyclic dextrin, because when you have fructose and glucose, you actually digest a little bit faster. So this might be the shout if you do, but I've heard that it tastes terrible if you do orange juice and honey, because then you want to add your own electrolytes. So you want to do potassium and sodium. So you want to put salt, and then it's called no salt is what just pure potassium is. And so if you do an electrolyte powder, or if you just do salt and no salt in honey and OJ, that's probably the best that you can do, especially because orange juice also has vitamin C, and most people don't get enough of that, and it's not in a high enough dose that it'll actually, because you don't want to have super duper high dose antioxidant directly after a workout, because we actually want some of that inflammation. If you don't know, it's essentially, you can think about your cells create, it's called ROS, and you can think about it as like exhaust, and antioxidants come in and clear it out. And we actually have it's kind of been shown that if you have high dosed antioxidants post-workout, things like vitamin C and vitamin E, that you've reduced muscle growth signals. So ideally you're not having that, but again, orange juice is not high enough. It's not a high enough concentration of vitamin C to be causing anything like that. So you'll be good. So that's hypothetically the best option is orange juice, honey, potassium, and sodium. But again, I've heard that tastes like shit. So you can, and then that's the best in terms of absorption, in terms of electrolytes, and for gut health, and all kinds of stuff, but not the best for taste. So I like dextrose, and I don't think it's that cost effective either. It's probably pretty expensive I don't know how much orange juice costs. I haven't looked into it, but dextrose is pretty cheap. And same thing with electrolyte powder, especially if you use code COLT. I'm sorry, I'm done with the shameless plug. Anyways, that's what I like to use. There's also the hard candy trend, which is another one. So this one, of course, you're not gonna get the electrolyte benefits, so you can just sip on some electrolytes. But having something like a Jolly Rancher, even like a Sucker, I guess, it gives you the same benefits of the carbs. And here's my thing. I'm curious about this. So this is getting so in the weeds. Would it be better to have a hard candy or a liquid that you swish before your sets? Because I have two theories as to which one. I have one theory as to why it could be better and one theory as to why it could be worse. And I haven't done enough research to really tell you which is which. I'll just tell you my rationale. The first is that it could be better because you have the hard candy constantly in your mouth. So the carb receptors that are telling your brain to essentially ease off the brakes are always on. And so your brain's essentially never putting on the brakes. But my theory is, okay, what if they get overloaded by having the constant carbs in your mouth? And then it loses effectiveness because they get sort of numb to the sensation. I don't know if there's research to really look into this. And again, I don't think people would. If there's any researchers watching this, any master's students or doctorate students, this is a study that I want to see. I want to see an orange juice and honey group so that they have fructose, or I guess we would need to have it taste controlled. So I want to see but how would we do that? I guess if we want to test the mechanism behind just having fructose and glucose. So I want to see something with a taste controlled trial with dextrose. One group has dextrose, one group has just a control that's nothing. One group has a hard candy, and then one group has a fructose and dextrose. I guess with the hard candy, how do you make it? They would know immediately. You can't really blind them to that. I don't know. I'm yapping. This is just me brainstorming, but I guess they're probably all the same, because this is what I mean about we're getting so in the weeds. It really probably doesn't matter because the effects that we're talking about are so small anyways. But the last thing is dosing. That's what someone asked me earlier, was how much intra-workout carbs do you need, or how many? You should, essentially the best data that we have on this is from the acute carbohydrate meta-analysis, and this one found that it was, but this is where things get into the weeds, because the acute carb meta-analysis counted both pre-workout and intra-workout carbs. So keep that in mind, is that you may not, in terms of the blood glucose thing, you may not even need intra for that if you had carbs pre-workout. But anyways, from that meta-analysis, we see that 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight should be sufficient. And there is a linear relationship between obviously blood glucose and dose, but it's very flat. The slope is very flat. So literally the difference between 0.4 grams per kilogram and I think it goes up to 2 grams per kilogram, maybe even higher, was nothing. So I say try to stick around that 0.4, 0.5 grams per kilogram. You'll probably be good, especially if you're in a dieting phase and you don't want to be wasting all of your carbs on, because that can be a significant amount of calories. For example, for me, right, I'm 95 kilograms and I do 40 grams of dextrose during my workout. That's 160 calories. 160 calories doesn't sound like a lot till you're eating 1400 at the end of prep and you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. That 160 calories of broccoli is, how much broccoli is that? 40 calories of broccoli is 150 grams cooked. So I could have basically 600 grams of cooked broccoli. I could have over a pound of cooked broccoli, which is 2 pounds of uncooked broccoli just for my workout carbs. But again, that's actually what I wanted to say as well, is the timing of when it would matter more. You probably want to have it probably matters more when you are in a deficit, when you have less carbs available, less glycogen stores, and you just less glucose running through your body, because your blood sugar is probably going to be a little bit lower because you're not in that well-fed state. So I keep my intra-workout in the whole time, the whole prep. I'll keep it in the entire cut, because we know that that's the number one variable when it comes to gaining and maintaining muscle during a deficit is your training. And so I want to keep my training as fucking just pristine as possible. So I take out, my intra does not leave. I'd rather suffer through a little bit of hunger, keep my intra during deficit. But again, that's if we're talking about really trying to maintain muscle, if you're on a prep. If you're just a regular guy trying to lose weight, then that 160 calories is definitely better off somewhere else. But so I think in a deficit, it matters more. From the meta-analysis also, it matters more if you're training fasted. So the real use cases here where it's going to move the needle the most would be, you definitely would want it in a deficit when your training is more likely to be suffering. If you're training for longer than 45 minutes, and if you train if you're training fasted, so if you haven't eaten in the last 8 hours, definitely just if you're training fasted in general. If you're training in the morning if you don't eat anything, 100% you should use intra. And deficits, and if you have longer than 45-minute workouts, I would say it's a good bet. But again, if you are just in a general weight loss population, then those calories are probably better off in something that's going to actually be satiating, because I can tell you right now, those calories are not satiating. And then dosing, 0.4 grams per kilogram is probably good. You're really not going to see much benefit past that. You could do a little bit higher, sure, go for it. Especially if you're at maintenance or if you're in a slight surplus and you struggle to get down food, I would say just load up the intra-workout carbs, because you don't feel anything. And then the types, highly branched cyclic dextrin with some electrolytes in it is peak. The probably a little bit better is orange juice with honey with salts and potassium. And then you could also do hard candy and sip on electrolytes. That's all I got for y'all today. If you learned something, drop a like, follow, subscribe, comment, apply for coaching in my bio. I got programs there as well. Love y'all. Peace.